Ukraine marks the third year of Russia's full-scale invasion. In the early hours of February 24th, in 2022, Moscow attacked Ukrainian cities with dozens of missiles, while its troops crossed the Ukrainian border from different directions. However, despite some beliefs that the Kremlin army could capture Kyiv in just 3 days, Ukrainians stood strong for 3 years, repelling the invasion of the Russian army. In a video published on Telegram, President Zelensky underlined, "These have been 3 years of incredible heroism of Ukrainians."
3 years of resistance. 3 years of gratitude. 3 years of support. 3 years of unity. 3 years of help. Thank you for defending our country and our people for 3 years together. Thank you for every battle that Ukraine has won. Thank you for every position that we, all Ukrainians, have defended. Thank you for your contributions to our common future. I thank our soldiers for their bravery. You are the best in the world. 3 years of full-scale war is a lot, but the Ukrainian people have defended their right to independence and their own country. Thank you all for your support.
With 1 minute of silence to mark the third year of Russia's full-scale invasion, that's how an EU foreign ministers meeting started in Brussels today. European Union diplomats are gathered in the Belgian capital to discuss support for Ukraine, as well as the 16th package of sanctions against Russia.
Today we have a grim anniversary. 3 years ago, today the war started in Ukraine, and I guess we can all recall where we were at this exact moment when we heard about this. It is no question who is the aggressor and who is the victim here. Russia started bombing Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022 and is continuing to do so. Nobody in Europe wants the war to continue, and nobody in Europe wants the war less than Ukrainians. They want peace on their territory.
On the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the European Union adopted its 16th sanctions package against the aggressor. According to a statement from the EU Council, this significant package includes 83 new listings of individuals and entities responsible for actions that undermine or threaten Ukraine's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence. In particular, the EU has targeted Russia's shadow fleet by adding 74 vessels from third countries to a list that prohibits them from accessing ports. Additionally, a wide range of services related to maritime transport has been banned for these vessels. The Council also included 53 new entities that are directly supporting Russia's military and industrial complex in its aggression against Ukraine.
We adopted important decisions. We adopted the 16th package of sanctions that includes several items, and we continue to work on the 17th package. We also discussed, and ministers broadly supported, the new initiative for military aid for Ukraine. And of course, the details and especially the numbers will be decided and discussed on the extraordinary European Summit on the 6th of March.
World leaders arrived in Kyiv on the morning of February 24th to show solidarity and support to Ukraine on the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion. Among those gathered in Ukraine's capital are the prime ministers of Canada, Spain, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, and Estonia, as well as the presidents of Finland, Latvia, and Lithuania. Also in attendance were European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. On her X page, von der Leyen wrote that on the third anniversary of Russia's brutal invasion, Europe is in Kyiv. We are in Kyiv today because Ukraine is Europe. Together with President Zelensky and the First Lady, the foreign leaders honored the memory of fallen soldiers in a ceremony near the Memorial of National Remembrance in Kyiv's main square. Those present honored the memory of those who gave their lives in the fight for Ukraine's freedom with a moment of silence. Ukraine is ready to make a prisoner exchange with Russia in an all-for-all format, stated President Zelensky. While opening the Support Ukraine summit held in Kyiv on February 24th, he underlined that the release of all Ukrainian prisoners could be a signal of peace from Moscow.
The end of the war must begin with the steps that restore confidence in the situation itself, because there is no confidence in Russia. And now such a step can be the release of prisoners. Thousands of them, thousands of people are held in Russia. And some of them have been held not only since 2022, but much earlier, since 2014. Russia must release the Ukrainians. Ukraine is ready to exchange all for all. And this is a fair option.
President Zelensky once again emphasized the importance of security guarantees, stressing that Ukraine and Europe must have their place at the negotiating table. Zelensky also mentioned that while U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg was in Kyiv, he was given a list of the more than 25 ceasefires Russia has broken since 2014. The Support Ukraine summit is gathering state leaders, both those who traveled to Ukraine or joined via video conference, heads of the EU, diplomats and experts.
The war in Ukraine remains the most central and consequential crisis for Europe's future. Putin is trying harder than ever to win the war on the ground. His goal remains Ukraine's capitulation, and we know what could happen next.
A lot of people don't understand that this is not only about Ukraine, but this is also about Europe. This is also about the United States. This is also about international law. And at the end of the day, it's about the world order.
We continue to uphold our strong support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence. It's our shared responsibility to ensure that next year we commemorate the anniversary of peace, not war.
While speaking at the event, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, announced new aid for Ukraine. It includes 25 LAV-2 infantry fighting vehicles, 2 armored combat support vehicles, which Ukrainian personnel will train with in Germany, a landing system and 4 flight simulators for F-16 fighter jets. Canada will also send millions of rounds of ammunition, military equipment and first aid kits.
We must do everything in our power to enable Ukraine to secure a just and lasting peace, a peace that cannot be achieved without Ukrainians at the table. That is precisely what Canada is focused on. Canada has been a steadfast, unshakable partner to Ukraine since the beginning, and that will never, ever change.
The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez stated that Spain will provide Ukraine with new military aid worth €1 billion this year. He underlined that the country will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes.
At the end of this terrible period, freedom and democracy will prevail over violence and authoritarianism. The Ukrainian people can count on Spain. Rest assured, we will be with you as long as it takes and as much as you need.
New aid was also announced by Norway, Denmark and Sweden, while the UK reported on imposing the largest sanctions package against Russia's shadow fleet and companies that supply Russia with military components. Rallies in support of Ukraine commemorating the third year since Russia launched its full-scale invasion were held around the world, attracting thousands of peaceful protesters. In Taiwan, participants held placards, shouting slogans in Ukrainian as they held a one-hour peaceful rally.
There is no negotiations or discussions of stopping the war in Ukraine without Ukraine. It can be done like this. We need to be present in these negotiations and we need to share our thoughts about this and to be full right participators in this process.
In Athens, hundreds of demonstrators gathered to share their emotions of their homeland embroiled in war. Members of the Ukrainian community in Greece held up their keys, symbolizing their desire to return home, and observed a minute's silence for those lost in the war.
With the latest news, I'm sorry I'm crying. I feel terrible, really. And I hope things will change and that my country will finally see better days.
Thousands of protesters gathered in France in support of Ukraine, joined by unions, NGOs and elected officials, marching in the streets of Paris. Demonstrators chanted anti-Putin slogans, concerned with the risks of having negotiations without Ukraine's direct involvement.
Ukraine will fight to the bitter end. Of course it will. The Ukrainians are tired, their resources exhausted, but Ukraine needs a just and lasting peace.
In Toronto, hundreds gathered in Nathan Phillips Square to show support for Ukraine in repelling Russia's full-scale invasion for the third consecutive year.
There is an entire generation of Ukrainian children, like my son, from whom Russia has stolen a peaceful childhood.
Meanwhile, several cities across the United States held similar support rallies, namely in Hartford, Connecticut, where hundreds of peaceful protesters were chanting Ukrainian slogans, joined by their local senator Richard Blumenthal.
Volodymyr Zelensky is not a dictator.
Thousands of protesters marched on the Russian embassy in London as they called on the international community not to betray Ukraine. A coalition of Ukrainian communities and UK-based organizations attended a rally on Saturday calling for Russia's troops to withdraw, ahead of the third anniversary of the Kremlin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.